All right. So I just wanted to complete what I had started, um, and just round it all out by talking a little bit about why, in the first place, I'm bringing in the Haudenosaunee and their stories about the great peacemaker for this eclipse. And the first reason is, of course, because this is a Libra eclipse, and because also we're invited to really drop deeper into the essence of Libra and to consider in what moments of time and in what cultures have the principles of peace really been activated or restored. And certainly the Haudenosaunee stories of the peacemaker in Hiawatha and Jigonsasi demonstrate that. The other reason is because the Haudenosaunee, according to many scholars and some traditionalists, would say that they founded their great law of peace right after a eclipse, a total solar eclipse, had swept through their territory in 1142. So to me, it's always felt like they knew something maybe that we didn't know or that we're remembering about the potency of these kinds of sacred timing so we can work with them productively. So my invitation to you as I'm sharing this with you is to just really consider that this eclipse is a time that we can dream into a different restoring the spiritual blueprint for the US and within our own being, that we can act as those kinds of peacemakers to bring together the parts that have been separated and that are needing healing. So I love to consider with this story the version of the story that's shared by um, Robin Wall Kimmerer, who wrote Braiding Sweetgrass. And so she writes about the area in New York, which was once Onondaga. And she talks about this story and she talks specifically about Tarodaho, Tarodaho, the Onondaga chief who refused to join the Confederacy, that refused the efforts of Hiawatha and the peacemaker and Jigonsasi. And according to in her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, she talks about the way that um, Tarodaho, he had snakes in his hair. So she talked about that. And she talked about how this has to do with the way she connected it is that she literally said that it's as if these braids have to do with the waterways that connected these different tribes and the poison that is now has been in these waterways due to the distortion of the modern culture. And so she talks about that, and she says that literally, and this is part of many of the ancient stories, that the way that they established peace and that they finally won over Taraho was that they actually they helped him to heal, and part of how they did that was um, that literally Hiawatha brushed the snakes, and the peacemaker brushed the snakes out of his hair. So there was a healing that happened. And so when she speaks about the what happened, she talks about the need as well to heal and mend the waters that connect us, and to heal and mend the parts of the earth that have been harmed because of our own separation from each other. So I just wanted to speak to that as well, and to honor that story that is an important story for us to remember at this time, at this Libra eclipse. So to really ask, what is it that when we are so the other thing I would say um, about Tadaha, oh my goodness, um, about Tarodaho is that when he had been won over, and not through acts of violence, but through acts of peace and healing, um, he actually went on to become a very powerful and very essential spiritual leader, so much so that now the Onondaga actually literally refer to their spiritual healers, their spiritual leaders, as Tarodaho. So again, it feels like a very important theme, whether this is about our internal work or our work within our communities or in our nation or as global citizens, that we are wanting and needing to find and identify the places where we are um, the places where there's that wounded aspect that doesn't want peace, and how is it that we can actually pour love into that part, and how can we comb the snakes out of that being's hair and acknowledge the pain that's there. And another aspect of the story is often that Taraho had 7 crooks in his body, and that was also something that the peacemaker had helped him to untangle and to heal himself. And so there's so many layers of the story that feel reminiscent of Medusa, of Mary Magdalene with the seven demons cast out of her body. There's something that's out of balance. And here's this sacred being who's willing to carry that shadow for us so that we can see it outside of ourselves. And so we can learn to finally love and bring mending and healing to our own inner part, or the aspect of our local or our national or our global community. We can see that the one who has all this pain and this anger and distortion, that being needs to be coaxed, and needs to be courted, and needs to be um, reminded of who they really are, and needs to be um, given a context where we can support them in combing the energies of poison and of rage and of pain out of their hair, out of their mind. And that's all of us. We all have the need for that. And again, our lands and our waters of Mother Earth are needing that kind of healing and nourishment as well now. So I'm going to leave it there. And I hope you have a beautiful eclipse. And these are just some things to consider.